Customer Success Convos. Join the biggest names in customer success for a video series that brings together leaders within the field to discuss the latest trends, innovative insights, and most effective strategies within customer success right now. Hosted by Vish Walia. Whether you're new to customer success or a seasoned professional, Vish and his guests will leave you with actionable advice, takeaways, and top tips to enhance your customer experiences.
Josh, why don't you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do at ServiceNow?
Sure. So very briefly, I have been in the customer success space for going on 10 years now. Actually been customer facing for a vast majority of my career since I graduated college. Everything from project management to account management to implementations, and really got into the customer success space almost accidentally. There was a former vice president of mine that actually thought that it was an interesting concept, and he introduced me to the idea, and here I am now, about almost 10 years later, really enjoying being a part of the community, being a part of this CS industry. I've been working at ServiceNow for going on the last 2 years, so started right before COVID hit, and I was in the office for maybe 5, 6, 7 days before they sent out the notice that everyone needed to go work from home. So been enjoying kind of the transition back into some sense of normalcy, but definitely enjoying working here at ServiceNow.
I hear you. And I also hear you working for 10 years in customer success. And I tell you, time flies when you're having fun. So it seems like you're having fun.
I hope that I'm having fun. It's not always as fun as you want it to be, but you know what? It's worthwhile work. And I think that's the part that I really enjoy the most out of it.
Perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, today, Josh and I will discuss about a very important topic, a topic that is very near dear to me, transitioning of customer success from IC role, that is individual contributor role, to management role. I know that customer success is one of the fastest evolving and growing business functions in the industry. And the growth is so enormous that it demands new customer success leaders on a daily basis. So Josh, what are your thoughts on the current customer success landscape and the challenges customer success leaders face transitioning from ICs to people management?
Yeah, first off, it's such an important topic to discuss, right? Because as this industry is maturing and as we're growing as an overall customer success, collective community, there really needs to be some focus put on how we groom, how do we grow and mature our team members to actually take on leadership positions. And when I talk about leadership, it's not just being a manager in title, not just getting that promotion, doing all that sort of thing. It's about building out the mentoring, the sponsoring, the coaching activities that are also involved with being a good leader. So everyone needs to have some sort of maturity plan. Everyone needs to have some sort of growth objective that they're striving for. It can't just be that we're stuck in the same rut of doing all the same things over and over again. That's really easy for us to get stuck in this weird sense that the next QBR is just another meeting, that the next customer success plan is just another document that we need to deliver. Really what I'm talking about is how do we get individual contributors to start thinking more broadly about not only how are they succeeding in their careers, but how are they helping others around them to be successful. The customer success world really needs more mentors and coaches and a lot less superstars and lone wolves that are out there just kind of making a name for themselves. The one thing I'll say though, this transition from individual contributor to management is not exactly the simplest one, right? There's some pretty big and pretty fundamental shifts that need to be made, at least mentally, as you're thinking about making this a move for your career and then making it a successful one. So instead of being customer success focused, as you move into management, and I can talk a little bit more about this later, you become employee success management and success focused. That way you focus on what's really making a good manager out of yourself and focusing on getting your team to do well in their own careers and their own engagements with customers.
I love your mantra, that transition mantra, that from customer focus become employee focus, right? That's something that I'm sure will stay with our audience and myself for a long time. I like what you shared, and I fully concur on that this transition is simple said than done, right? So if I may ask that this offers like challenges to both, right? Like customer success managers who are looking to transition and also the leadership. So what would be those challenges in your perspective that these two different types of roles are facing?
Yeah, so there's you said it right. There's two big challenges. One is for the individual contributors themselves. One is for managers. Let's start with the individual contributors.
Sure.
I mentioned it just a few minutes ago, right? Shifting the focus from being the superstar, being the super customer success manager. If you're a hotshot individual contributor, you've been working and operating on the idea that you're just going to get all the things done, right? You're going to make the customer successful. You're going to build out the plan. You're going to have the amazing QBR. Like all that stuff is great, but at a certain point, when you move into this idea of being a manager, the focus now becomes less on you doing your job well and more on getting the people around you to actually do their job well as well. And what tends to happen is in this shift, in this transition from being an IC to a manager, you now become responsible for your team's success, and that means changing the way that you interact with everyone rather than trying to solve all the problems. You're actually there to try and mitigate risk, and you're trying to remove obstacles and remove barriers to success that your team members may actually have. Additionally, as this move from IC to manager comes in, you're now going to be focused on like advocating for your team, making sure that you are providing them with the best opportunities for them to grow, and really providing the best channels for communication and for motivation. Right? If those two things don't exist, then you potentially have an opportunity of failing as a manager. And then the other part that I would say that I find whenever I'm talking to people that want to get into management, it's really easy to complain about a bad manager, right? Because we've all had them, right? We've all had a bad manager that didn't know how to engage with us, didn't know how to communicate well, didn't know how to allow us the freedom to do what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But it's also really incredibly difficult to avoid becoming a bad manager. And that's just one of the aspects of this jump, right? You have to be intentional about this process, knowing what you're getting yourself into, not assuming the worst or the best out of every single situation that you're walking into, and being able to think through how you're going to actually engage with different people. So
Very,
that's from the
very
individual contributor side.
okay.
The manager side is a little bit different, right? And this stems directly from the first point, right? As a manager, I have to be open to the fact that number one, I don't own my team, right? I
Mhm.
am not I am not Father Josh that has to keep my kids in line or be the disciplinarian, any of that that stuff, right? In fact, I'm not even responsible for my team's success. They're responsible for their own success and they're responsible for their own career trajectory. What I'm here for and responsible for is creating the circumstances, creating the opportunities for them to be successful. And sometimes that means pulling myself out of the way or pulling other people out of the way so that the team can actually be successful themselves. And really what this boils down is to getting rid of ego, right? As a manager, the biggest struggle that I'm going to have is struggling against my own ego, right? I want my team to be successful because it looks good on me, but that shouldn't be the end goal. That should be a byproduct of what happens if I allow my team to be successful amongst themselves. And that doesn't mean that I won't get recognized or won't get rewarded for good work, but it just does mean that my goals themselves need to be to invest in the team success rather than my own individual success as a manager.
I love what you shared, right? Like invest in my team's success rather than my own success. And, it puts a lot of onus and responsibility on leaders themselves, right? Like
Sure.
they are the ones who can be the torch bearers of, that transitioning of individual contributors to people management role.
Yeah.
If I may ask, what do you think that, customer success leaders can do to foster an environment in the organization that is conducive for individual contributors to transition to management roles?
Yeah, and let me take a quick step back, right? A lot of these concepts that we're going to be talking about today, or that we're talking about today, are not customer success centric, right? So this is an idea that can apply to product management or program management or project management or
Any
sales or
role,
whatever, right?
right?
Any
Sales
role
role,
where you're trying to
marketing
become
role. Yeah.
exactly trying to become a manager from an IC, I think the thing that management can do as a whole is start with basics, right? Listen to your team, take some time and actually intentionally dive into what is it that your team's goals are individually. What are they trying to accomplish? What are their aspirations? What are their career objectives? Right? If you don't know, then you have nothing that you can actually start from in terms of engaging.
Fair enough.
And that really starts with understanding strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, and then coaching through what are those weaknesses that we could potentially minimize, right? How do we shore up those weaknesses so that you're not left out and being, vulnerable to potential threats or whatever. So as a manager, I have to do my job to create the culture of transparency, authenticity, and communication. And in doing so, it gives the ICs, the individuals themselves, the opportunity to own their own success. And they should be able to focus on not only doing their job well, but thinking forward to what that job well might look like in the next 2-3 years, in the next 6 to 8 months, whatever that time frame is, right? And then the other part to that is challenging your team members to actually hold themselves accountable to you and to each other, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're gonna set someone to move into management, like I said earlier, right, the focus needs to shift away from me to us, to
Okay.
we, right? And
Yeah.
if you can instill that idea early on as a manager to your individual contributor team members, then it makes it that much easier for that transition to occur.
Yeah, I like the whole saying, right? We before me, right? So
Maybe for me, that's right.
when you're looking for transitioning from IC to management, that what needs to happen, right?
Yep.
Last but not the least, CSM practitioners, right? As you know, like most of our audience is, CSM managers, CSM practitioners who must be watching this episode, thinking that what they can do, right? So what tactics or tips would you, share with our audience who are practitioners and individual contributors that they can start to work on as they prepare their journey, from IC to management?
Yeah, I'm going to start with a couple of different factors, right? I've got like 4 items that I can share, but I'll kind of jump around a little bit.
Sure.
Let's start with ICs, right? ICs, something that I think comes to a surprise when I'm talking to people that are coaching is um, management is bi-directional, right? So I'm not just managing you, you're managing me through your expectation setting, through your communication and practice, through your behaviors, and setting the understanding of what to expect out of you as an individual contributor. If
Okay.
you as an IC are not taking the time to manage up towards your manager, then you are missing a huge opportunity to actually understand how to move your career.
Okay.
And from a management perspective, one of the things that I think is really critical is making sure that your one-on-one meetings with your team members are intentionally both tactical and strategic. Now,
Okay.
sometimes that might mean generating a separate meeting for strategic things, but if you can encompass both of those aspects in every one of your meetings, then you're going to have a better opportunity for coaching and for mentoring on things that maybe not have to do with the day-to-day job. Right. So an example, let me give just a quick example, right? So for my team members, we do our one-on-ones every week.
Okay.
Sometimes it's every other week, just depending what might be going on. And those are truly just tactical. What's going on? How can I help you? What do you need assistance with that's from someone else in the organization, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
I always like to ask 3 questions, right? How are you doing? How's the team doing? Broader, right? And how am I doing as a manager? And that gives us an opportunity to have that open dialogue around, like, in the moment, what's going on, what's a pain point, and what can we do to fix this?
I love
Okay.
that. I love your 3 questions. So yeah.
The secondary meetings, however, are things that we try to do probably once a quarter, maybe once every few months. I think depending on how your business runs, once a quarter may be too frequent. So this will be up to you as an individual manager. But I set aside some time and I make the team members actually schedule it with me, right? I don't own their career success, so they're the ones that should drive that meeting. And that meeting is a little bit longer. It's taking a step back away from the tactical things, the are you putting things into a success platform? What are you actually doing? Like, I don't want to talk about those things. I want to talk about where are you going in the next 6 months? Where are you going in the next year? The goals that we set up last year, are they still the same ones that you have this year? What are your ambitions? What's your career goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Is it still in customer success, right? I have a couple team members right now that are looking at potential other opportunities within the organization. And while I certainly don't want to lose people, at the same time, they're not mine to lose, right? My job is to help facilitate their success. And sometimes that means letting them go, helping facilitate them grow into other departments or into other companies in some cases. And it's really important that as a manager, I'm keeping that mindset available throughout any engagement that I have with the team member. Okay. One little additional note on there is that if your manager's not doing this and having both the tactical and strategic meetings, take it upon yourself to actually make those meetings happen, right? Do your one-on-one meetings, absolutely, but then ask for some time where you can talk through career objectives and goals, and come prepared, right? These are your goals. These are your ambitions. The manager may not necessarily understand or see all of those things, but that's where the conversation really comes into play.
And let me say that that's a testament of a good leader. Like you talked about that, your team members are not yours to lose, right? You are there to support in their career progression. I think, you're doing an amazing job as a leader, like some things that you shared, those 3 questions that you asked, your strategy and technical meetings that you just shared about, that tactical is only for the business-centric work or day-to-day work, and strategic is more long-term. I think that's a very, I would say beneficial nugget that other, success leaders or any leaders by any chance can start using that. And I think all in all, what you shared today, Josh, was amazing. And it gives our audience food for thought that if you are planning to move from IC role to management, and as a leader, if you are thinking that how you should create an environment where people should be, very easy to move on, easy to transition and elevate their roles, this talk will be very helpful. So once again, thank you so much for coming and these valuable insights.
My pleasure. I'm always happy to help, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Always looking for great conversations and good opportunities to talk through customer success issues or just general management leadership things. So always open to that. So appreciate your time, Vish, as well.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Customer Success Convos. That's it for this week's episode. Join us again next time to learn more about customer success tips and takeaways from industry leaders.